proportional electoral system, and many of our members feel that it's essential that we do this in order to address many of the problems that you've been discussing about our political system and in order to enhance the health of our democracy. So I'd like you to share your thoughts on proportional representation that you haven't already shared, and perhaps share some thoughts on what we need to be doing to make some progress in this area, and to wrap up, and then we'll invite questions.
I don't think we're ever going to get PR unless it's a two-step process of some sort. If we ask, as has happened in a number of provinces, in one step, let's turf our first past the post system and substitute X or Y or Z. The confusion factor, or the fact that some people want a change, but they don't want that particular kind, I think will always leave us stuck. So I do have ideas, which I won't share tonight, but I do think I ask you to think about what kind of two-step process we could have, where we first decide that we're going to turf the first past the post system, and then have some kind of logical public dialogue, second vote, whatever it takes, to then decide between probably two, perhaps three good alternatives somewhere down the road. I will say this. I think that the absolute worst form of proportional representation, whatever that might be, is better than what we have now. So let's not any of us get bogged down in too much navel-gazing about the differences between A, B, or C. Any kind of PR would be better than what we have now. I guess the only other thing I'd like to say about this is I hope you don't see the failures in BC and Ontario as failures. They're really not failures. They are moving us further in the right direction. They came fairly close, and they have got more and more people thinking about it. So politics is a slow, frustrating, long process. It's not a sprint, it's a marathon, and we are getting closer. I think we probably will get there at some point, hopefully sooner than later, and I'll leave it at that.
Well, for the first time, we have a slight disagreement among the panelists. I believe that there are many democratic deficits in Canada, but the first past the post system is not the biggest one. Just as an aside, I couldn't help but notice that you elected your executive this evening under a first past the post system, but that's neither here nor there. That's a joke. There's no doubt that the first past the post system reached artificial majorities. You have one here in Ontario, and of course we have the federal Conservative government that has 100% of the power with about 60% of the seats and only about 38.5% of the vote. And I agree that coalition governments and minority governments provide for a better system of checks and balances and force the government to work with Parliament as opposed to attempt to dominate it. I am very, very skeptical of proportional representation in its purest form. And I don't know if anybody other than Northern Ireland still uses proportional representation in its purest form, where you have the parties establish a list of candidates, and if you get 30% of the vote, you get the top third of your list gets elected. And the reason I have two concerns with that system. First of all, I guess there's three concerns. There's no role for independents, and no ability for independents to get elected under pure PR. The second is, I already have concerns about too much control, too much clout being exercised by the parties, and pure PR gives the parties total control because they're the ones that rank the priority on the list. And my third concern with it is it doesn't allow for any constituency representation. If you're elected under a pure PR format, you are elected based on the polling results of a national election. And there is no particular representative for Thunder Bay, there is no particular representative for Edmonton St. Albert. Now that being said, before you all start throwing things at me, I do see a lot of value and a lot of benefit to some of the variations of proportional representation. So that's where I disagree with Bruce, that Bruce thinks that, that all alternative systems are worse than the first past the post system, so we need not sort out the details. I think we do need to sort out the details before we convince Canadians to abandon first past the post in favor of one of the systems. And the one that I like, and I think the one that has the most merit is the German system of mixed member proportional representation, where members are elected under single seat constituencies, essentially a first past the post system. But then on a regional basis, seats are allotted to unsuccessful candidates who represent parties that weren't elected under the first past the post system to make their proportion closer to the overall global vote as opposed to the distortions that we see in first past the post. I support that system. I think it logically accommodates both single, the fact that if you need to talk to your member of parliament, you have to have one, and that requires single constituency representation. But I do agree with the manufactured mathematical majorities, and I think the mixed member proportional system that they use in New Zealand and Germany has the most value, and I would definitely get behind any move to implement a system, a hybrid system between first past the post and PR. And the second part of your question was, do you think we'll get there? And the short answer to that is no. Either of the parties that could form the next government, it would not be in their interest to change the electoral system. Obviously, if they were elected under it, they're going to promote the status quo. It's going to require a minority government, maybe a coalition government. It's going to have to come from Parliament and probably a backbench member of Parliament who has the support of reform-minded parliamentarians. It's not going to come from the government because the government has no incentive to change a status quo system under which it was elected.